Hi, good evening. My name is Paul, and you are welcome to my channel, Common Sense. People in this community where I am, that's Indians, many of them will ask, why are you studying in India? Why did you choose India? So sometimes I answer them briefly. Sometimes I, you know, just give them one short reason. I have prepared to share, mainly the reasons, the major reasons that brought me to India and why I actually chose India. So, uh, now let me give you a background. The thing is that while in Nigeria, I worked in railway. So I wanted to, study something that I am passionate about. I wanted something better than what I was doing in railway then. You know, I was very religious person. That's one thing. Very, very religious, a Christian. So, and prior to that, I was actually thinking maybe I was going to end up being a pastor. But at the same time, as I grew, as I studied things, study books mainly, I found out that there is a way that there is a way to service. Yes, there is a way to serve humanity without being a pastor. I mean, without being necessarily a religious person. So it was this part that brought me to India. It took me years. Let's say between mainly between year 2009 and 2014 when I actually left Nigeria. Now, prior to that, in 2007, between 2007 and 2008, I got admission to study in Rose University, South Africa. I was working in a smaller company in Lagos then, so I was trying to raise money. I struggled and struggled and struggled. I got admission actually, but eventually I couldn't go because I don't want to go into another country and go and be hustling or roaming around without being able to pay my school fees. So I decided to stay back in Nigeria. So by 2010, I started working in railway. Now, the vision or desire to study abroad kept growing in my heart. I wasn't a young man anymore. I was nearing my 30. So I decided to get married. I got married in 2010, and still the desire to study abroad still did not die. If at some point I was thinking maybe I should give it up, especially when I became very, very religious. So I was thinking maybe I should forget it. Maybe it wasn't really the plan of God for me. These are things we say to ourselves, and then we give up on our dream or probably visions. So I decided maybe I was gonna give up on it, and continue to look for other ways to serve God or to serve people, you know. But I couldn't. I couldn't. I am a trained teacher. Okay, so I finished college. I went to Adeyemi's College of Education, and but I wasn't satisfied. I wanted something that I'm passionate about, something that will be mine. When I went to the college, then it wasn't based on. It was a decision that I just took. My mom said, "Oh, everybody, all your mates are in college and all of these things, and you are wasting time and all of that." So I decided, okay, I took jump, and then that was how I landed in Adeyemi College of Education there, So unfortunately, I didn't really know what I was studying, but then I did it. I was there. I graduated, and came back to Lagos. So now I kept researching. Even when I was in railway. That was between 2010 and 2014. I kept researching using the internet because there was like a cry in my heart to look for something that I am passionate about. I kept searching. Now I was my thoughts and belief then was that I was called into the youth ministry. So I was thinking of becoming a youth pastor. That was that was all I thought God was calling me to. So, and in that way, I wanted to serve people. I wanted to serve the youth. I want to help build the youth, the future generations, to be able to be in a position to help them, to mentor them. So now one day I went to the cafe, and I was searching, and I stumbled on a particular website whereby they requested for my ambition, life ambition, my temperament, my personality. So I didn't know it was personality test. In fact, until recently, I didn't know about online personality test. But that was the first time I took personality test. I think it would be around 2010 or 2011. So that personality test actually left something bigger in my heart. Because after I had taken the personality test, it further led me to careers that fit people that has my kind of mentality or kind of personality rather. So I was excited about it. And then that was when I actually heard about youth work. So I was wondering, what is youth work? But it's a profession, so a youth worker. So instead of becoming a youth pastor, I could actually become a youth worker. And that way, I will be able to get paid without having to task people like pastors will task people, So I could actually be employed, gainfully employed, making impact, helping the youth to prepare for their future, training them youth to be mature men and women, at the same time, getting paid. It will be my job. It will be my calling at the same time. So it was great. So, but I never heard about it before. I don't know anybody who can actually give me any information about it. So what I did was kept searching, countries. I learned, I think it's very common in Australia. It's just a little bit common in UK and the US. But you all know that studying in those countries are quite very expensive. So I loved Australia. So I, kept writing, kept searching, and then somehow in 2011, I knew I was going to come to India. I did not know how. Okay, I did not know how, but maybe by intuition, maybe by spirit. In those days I would say spirit. Okay, so but now I'm saying okay, maybe by intuition, but I knew that I was going to come to India. In fact, I wrote it down in my diary that I was going to come to India. It was in 2011. So I kept researching. I had no money. My salary there in railway was quite small. Wasn't even enough for me to take care of myself and my wife. So let alone saving to study abroad. So in fact, at a particular point, I was saying, okay, let me begin to build a career in railway and all of that. So, but later, the level of the kind of mentality of the people that are working in those places, I studied my senior colleagues. I studied the possibility that railway itself, Nigerian Railway, would improve to become a kind of organization where I want to spend the rest of my life. I figure it is not. So, and it was almost turning to brain drain for me, because I found out that the places that I work, the places that they post me to, I wasn't really using much of my brain. I worked on train as a checker. I worked as a ticketer for the executive in Apapa, Lagos, and then I was posted to Ibadan again, and then from Ibadan I was posted to Itori as a station master. Even though I was in charge of this of the station there, it was a small station though. But then I wasn't feeling fulfilled. All right, so I couldn't give up the idea of studying abroad, especially the youth work that I was passionate about. So, and I couldn't afford it. I couldn't afford US, I couldn't afford Australia, I couldn't afford the UK, and I had nobody that can help me. So what I did was to now say, okay, if I couldn't do youth work, I couldn't get youth work, where can I go? There was very few universities in the US that even offer it. There are very few even in the UK. But I think it's kind of common in Australia. I found out that youth work is a branch of social work. So if I study social work, I can actually concentrate on kind of, it's like majoring in youth work, you know. So okay, I began to study which countries that I can study social work again. You know, I found that it's also common it's more common in the West. So as far as Nigeria is concerned, as at that time, I did not know of any university in Nigeria that offers social work. And since I was searching on the internet, there was nothing at all, no information about social work that I could find, that I could relate to on the internet that had to do with Nigeria. So I kept searching, you know. So it was later that I didn't know that I could study social work in India until I think 2015. I was already in UAE then, in Abu Dhabi. So I decided that I was going to leave Nigeria and go to the UAE where I could work, you know, maybe 2 or 3 years, save money, since they are, in terms of exchange rate, their money is higher than that of Naira, which is Nigeria money. So in 2014, I decided I was going to leave, and I left Nigeria in 2014 and headed for Abu Dhabi. So I was in Abu Dhabi 2014 till 2017. So in 2016, I applied to study social work in the US. I got admission, and then I went to the embassy in Abu Dhabi there, but I didn't get visa. It's a long story. Maybe I'll share it sometimes later. So as I didn't get visa, I didn't want to waste more time, because I feel like time is going and I'm not getting younger. So I began to look around. I looked at South Africa, I looked at India, I looked at Scandinavian countries, Europe, but a lot of them don't, I need to study other languages to be able to study in those places. So to be able to study social work especially. Because what happens is that social work is usually kind of domesticated. Even though the course is global, you know, you can practice it anywhere in the world, but what they do is that, because you have to study a little bit of law, a little bit of political science, a little bit of environmental studies, a little bit of biology, you know, it's all encompassing. Social work is all encompassing. So eventually, when I didn't get I couldn't get to go to the US, I concentrated on India, because India was one, close to Abu Dhabi. That's one. My wife was already with me there in Abu Dhabi then. My wife came to join me in Abu Dhabi in 2015, 10 months later, 10 months after I left Nigeria. She came to the UAE and got a job as well. So she was like my backbone, you know. So our plan was that if I go back to college, she will be working, and supporting me. That was our plan, even before I left Nigeria. And thankfully it worked. It worked. It has worked fairly for us, and I am very grateful to her. So now, the story is kind of long, because what I was actually heading for, my target for this video is to narrate the reason why I chose India, why I chose to study in India. So let me just go straight to those points now. I've probably mentioned some of them. So the number one reason was proximity to UAE. Proximity UAE to India by flight, especially this where I am now, I'm in UP, is about 3 hours flight. So, and the ticket is usually not very expensive. If you are in Abu Dhabi and worked there, it's fairly cheap, compared to going to Nigeria from the UAE, which is about 6-7 hours. UAE, the last time I tried, which is about in UAE currency, it will be around 8,300 or thereabout, 1,200 or 300. So, and depending on airline again, if you are looking at Emirates, you're looking at Etihad, it might be much more expensive than that. So now, this was the cost of studying in India. The cost of studying in India, according to what I saw online then, was far cheaper than what it takes to study in South Africa. So now the challenge was, I don't know anybody in India. I had never been in India. I've worked with Indians in Abu Dhabi and relate with them, minimally at least, and the people that I related with then are mainly from South India. They are from Kerala. Or another factor that made me come to India was the cost of living. Now that I'm here, I can say that it is quite cheap. Food is cheap in India. Food is very, very cheap. I would say that. I believe food is very, very cheap. So it's a lot of it's something to consider. If somebody is watching this video and is considering studying in India, you should know that cost of living, especially in this state, right, in UP, is cheap. St. Joseph was my number one university or college that I wanted to attend in India, because I read a lot about them. I read people's comments and all of that. So, and being a Christian school as well, and Bangalore, most of the Indians that I spoke with in UAE, they told me that Bangalore is better. That I should stay and study in Bangalore. The next factor is the language. English is not the first language in most Indian states, because there are, I think, about 3 official languages in India. There is Hindi. Hindi is number 1. There's English, and in Kerala, I think their language is probably I don't know what they call that language. And then there is Tamil Nadu. So it depends on where you are. But here in UP, and I think in the south, most southern states also. Even in Bengali. Is it Bengali? Yes. Those ones have that. Bengali is another language, and it's kind of like an official language over there as well, other than Hindi, other than English. So here I found that English is fairly spoken. So I couldn't get into St. Joseph because I couldn't make payments to the university from the UAE. And the reason was that the name of the school ends with society. And anything that has society, you cannot pay to read from the UAE. So I couldn't make payments to St. Joseph. It was very painful, but I had no choice. In fact, I asked a friend of mine who was a Keralite to help me tell his parents at home to make payment for me for application fee, and they did actually, because they sent me receipt. But the school said they sent me an email that they didn't get the fee, the application fee, so I couldn't apply. So meanwhile, Amity University, anytime I am online, they on Facebook always send their advertisement. So and when I send message to them, they respond almost instantly. So I love that. I fell in love with that. They have a very good marketing strategy. That's Amity. That's one of the lessons that I've learned from them, and I think it's very good. So that's another factor that brought me to India. That I was able to apply, and I was able to apply for everything online. I was able to make payments for. They booked me for an online Skype interview. I did the Skype interview, and 2 or 3 days later, they told me I did well. So, and maybe about under 1 month or 2, I had gotten my admission letter, and then they asked me to pay my school fees. So I pay my school fees even from Abu Dhabi there. So it was quite easy making those payments. They were, So another factor is that the costs compared to other countries. So, and India is a developing country, which means that other costs like internet is very, very cheap. Oh, internet is very, very cheap here in India, and I love it. In fact, India's internet is far, far better than that of Abu Dhabi or the UAE generally, which I think is very, very expensive. Internet is expensive in UAE. It's also expensive in Nigeria, and very poor in Nigeria as well. So, but here in India, internet is good, quite good. So that has helped me to cope in a way. Maybe in my next video, I'm going to be sharing my experience in India. I think this will be interesting. Many people's channel is a platform where I have decided to share my experiences of traveling around. I'll be traveling to Abu Dhabi in early May to visit my wife. So I probably will be, going along with my camera as well, showing you some of the places that I love in UAE generally, and especially this channel I'm using it to share my life experiences as an adult student. Thank you for watching. Please do subscribe.